Hey YouTube, or hey to my 4 subscribers and my husband. I thought it was about time I post a video, so here we go. Okay, so I wanted to show how I make my necklaces or my pendants. I really have a lot of fun making these, but it does take a lot of time. Okay, so the first thing I did was choose a stone that I thought was beautiful. In this case I chose a lace agate. And I'm just going to make a simple shape, a circle. I made sure that the agate would fit in the circle just by measuring it on top of a cola lid and then using that lid to create the shape. Okay, and then the next thing I do is I just bend off the tops, bend them straight up, and this section will end up being where the pendant is hanging from. So that we'll sort that out a bit later on, but it should look like this, so it should be pointing upwards at the top. Okay, and then once I've got my shape there, I just double check that the stone will fit, because sometimes the size does change. Like you can see, the pendant is actually a bit bigger than the cola lid. Okay, then the next thing that I do is I create a skeleton on the back, where it's just a few, maybe 2 or 3 lines of wire across the back, and that's where the stone will rest. The stone will rest on top of that, making sure that it doesn't slip out of the back of the necklace, because we want to be able to wear the necklace outside and show it off to people without it falling all over the place or losing any precious stones if we have put precious stones in the pendant. Also, just a little disclaimer, I am in no way a professional jeweler. I haven't been taught in any schools or stuff like that. I just picked up what I know online, trial and error. Sometimes I just work, trust the process kind of thing, where I just start something and hopefully it turns out well. But this method I saw online, I can't remember who I saw it from first. It seems to be quite a common way of putting the stones in the wire wrapped pendants, just because it really makes sure that that pendant or that stone doesn't fall out. Otherwise, so what I'm doing, I'm just quickly adding a few lines across the back, making sure the gaps between aren't too big, because if they're too big, that then stone could slip. So I decided to add a third piece because the bottom hole was just a little bit too big, and I didn't want that stone to fall out. Okay, so then it's just about securing those 3 wires tightly on the back, making sure that none of them can move up and down on the piece and change position while you're busy working on it. Any little movement of wires does pose a risk to maybe your stone falling out. So make sure that those stones or those wires are really tightly attached. So now that I have my pieces connected to the back, it's time to start work on the front. So to keep that stone in on the front, I've decided to make a coil. I've seen this done normally with a drill, because it's a lot faster and it's not so taxing on your hands, but I don't have a drill, so I do it by hand, and that can take also quite a while. As you can see, this is not the full footage of me winding this coil. It did take quite some time. Okay, so when it looks about long enough, I just judge the size on the pendant itself. I cut off the ends and I just coil them in really snug to get a nice coil. After that, I like to polish the coils before I add them to the piece, because the pieces, once they're complete, can be very difficult to polish and get into those little cracks in the corner. So we've entered the sanding zone, and we will enter the sanding zone probably again, because if you really want a beautiful, shiny, eye-catching piece, a lot of the work is in the filing. Now I'm also just using a very, very rough nail file on the ends to make sure that there's no sharp corners, for when you're wearing your necklace you don't want to get scratched. So make sure that all those sharp edges and corners, before you go attaching everything, that you've made sure they're nice and flat, because as I say, it can be very difficult to get into those parts when you've put your piece together. Okay, so this is when I start my trust the process technique of making sure that the stone is secured, because the shape of the stone affects a lot of how you have to attach the wire. So I've measured out where I want the stone to sit, and I'm just making sure that the coil is in the right position and that it's holding tightly onto the stone, and that's just the first bar to keep the stone on the pendant. Obviously it's not going to be very secure, so I'm going to need to build up on that, which is what most of the wire work is building up from a skeleton base, and gradually making sure that your stone is sitting secure and sitting snug, so that no matter what you're doing, it doesn't fall out by accident. Alright, so if you've made it this far into the video, thank you for sticking with me. As I said, this is my first video that I'm posting. I've spent a few days working on it, and it's a lot more work than I expected, but it's very fulfilling to do it. Making something, and hopefully I can be proud of it at the end of the day. If you want to know a bit more about me, my name is Rochelle. I think I keep my introductions to this part of the video to just see who's sticking with me. You guys can get to learn a bit more about me. As I say, I'm not a professional. I just enjoy working with metal. It's such a nice material to work with. It can be very difficult to handle it sometimes. It can bounce in the ways that you don't expect it and stab you sometimes, but it's very fulfilling once you've created something and you see all the work that's gone into it. So yeah, a bit about me. I am from South Africa. If you're wondering what accent I have, I don't know if it sounds like an accent. I just sound normal to myself. So I'm from South Africa. I am working a 9-to-5 job at the moment. I would very much like to become a jeweler full-time, but it's difficult, in this economy, to get to that point. And I've decided now I'm not gonna allow my anxiety to stop me from exposing my work. And the world that we live in, this is the way that you get the word out, is you have to take the risk, and despite any judgment that might come before you, you do have to take that leap of faith. So that's what I'm doing by posting these videos. So this is number 1. I definitely am going to try to keep up and post a few videos. Hopefully every week I can post a video, but as I say, I do work a 9-to-5, so I'm definitely going to try my best. Okay, so what you're seeing here now, or what you've been seeing for the past few minutes, is I'm taking those extra pieces of wire that are on the ends of the coils, and I'm using them to create loops to just make the stone a bit more secure. I'm just making sure it lies flat on the body of the stone, to make sure that stone doesn't go anywhere or move anywhere. here you'll see I will flip the piece over quite a few times, just checking that every point is covered, every point is pushed down and in and secure onto the body of the stone, that there's no space for any slipping or movement on that stone. So just quality control, making sure that I've pushed the wire close enough to the stone so that it can hug it tightly onto that pendant. Alright, so now we're just testing that the stone doesn't fall out, and we test this by violently smacking it against anything we can find to make sure that it doesn't fall out. As you can see, it's quite snug, and now you can build onto it from the skeleton, and you know that the stone is going to be secure. In the next video that I post, I will be moving on to the part of the pendant that attaches to the necklace, and that will be a lot of wire wrapping and weaving, and that will take quite a while to do also, but the effect that it creates is well worth the time, and I'll show you how we do that in the next video. So again, thank you for sticking with me, and I'll see you in the next one.